The most terrifying karma I've ever seen, and I watched a narcissist go through it. When people hear the phrase "a narcissist getting their karma," the usual response is a half smile and a shrug, as if to say, "Yeah, right. That never happens." Or they assume it's something that happens only in the distant future, when the narcissist is worn out by age, stripped of their charm, abandoned by everyone they once manipulated. When the facade crumbles, when their mask slips for good, and they can no longer maintain their rotten, toxic identity. That's when people say karma catches up. And sure, in many cases, that is the path it takes. A slow unraveling, a gradual fall. But what if I told you that's not always how the story goes? What if I told you that some narcissists experience a total collapse when they are still young, still full of energy, still seemingly standing at the peak of life? Would you believe it if I told you I witnessed that collapse with my own eyes in real time? Because I did. And today, I'm going to share one of the most chilling experiences I've ever had. How I watched a narcissist fall hard, fast, and painfully. Not in theory, but in practice. This is not just a cautionary tale. This is a direct encounter with what I can only describe as divine justice, unfolding right in front of me. But before we dive into the full story, allow me to quickly invite you to something that might change your story. I'm hosting an online event on how to break free from the trauma bond with a narcissist in 5 real, practical, grounded steps. If you're ready to finally reclaim your power, you can register by clicking the I button above or using the link in the description before slots run out. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. It was during my college years, those early, disorienting days when you're trying to find your footing in a new environment, in a new city. That's when I met him, my roommate. At first, everything made sense. We were from the same culture, spoke the same language, had similar tastes in food, and we were studying the exact same program. Living together seemed like the practical and comfortable thing to do. And in the beginning, he seemed like the kind of person any parent would want their child to room with. Soft-spoken, religious, seemingly guided by strong values and a sense of right and wrong. But little did I know that beneath that surface was a very different kind of being. A manipulator in disguise. A few months into our arrangement, the cracks began to show. I caught him stealing items from the grocery store. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. And I'm not talking about some accidental slip of the hand. He planned it. He wore baggy clothes on purpose, timing it so no one would see him. And when I caught him red-handed, expecting perhaps a moment of shame or embarrassment, he laughed. He actually laughed. He said, "Come on, they overcharge anyway. They're a huge chain. A couple of things won't hurt them." There was no apology, no reflection, no accountability, just smirking justification. And that was a moment the illusion shattered for me. I was staring at someone who claimed to walk with God, who prayed 5 times a day, who quoted scripture and lectured others on morality, yet was perfectly comfortable stealing, lying, and manipulating in private. And if you think it stopped there, it didn't. Soon, it was my belongings going missing, my money that mysteriously disappeared. And when I confronted him, he gaslighted me so aggressively I began questioning my own memory. What started as minor red flags turned into full-blown psychological warfare. This wasn't just a roommate. This was a textbook narcissist, someone who wore a mask of piety and kindness but operated in secret like a parasite, feeding off my trust, my energy, and eventually trying to sabotage my entire life. But here's the twist. While he thought he was playing a clever game, conspiring behind my back and planting seeds of betrayal, life, or perhaps something higher, had other plans. Because what happened next was the beginning of his undoing. And I watched it all unfold, moment by moment. I've shared parts of this before, but it still haunts me how he twisted everything. When I started noticing things going missing, money, belongings, he didn't deny it outright. No, he took a different route. He blamed it on spirits, demonic forces. He told me they were after me, that they were the reason strange things were happening around me. And the terrifying part is, I almost believed him. Why? Because I had trusted him enough to share something deeply personal, my spiritual sensitivities. Ever since I was a child, I'd had visions, intuitive moments, a kind of spiritual awareness I didn't fully understand. I told him about all that, thinking he'd listen with compassion. Instead, he filed it away like a weapon, just waiting for the right moment to use it against me. So when things started to fall apart and I felt the floor shifting beneath my feet, it wasn't just theft or betrayal, it was psychological warfare. I started doubting my own reality. I began wondering, maybe I never had that money. Maybe I never put it in my wallet. Maybe I'm just making this up. That's the kind of mind twist a narcissist is capable of when they know exactly which buttons to push. When they make you believe you're the unstable one. But that wasn't the end of it. What I came to understand was even darker. He was deeply jealous of me. Not because I had more, but because I was driven, focused, and willing to work hard for what I wanted. I poured myself into my studies. I stayed up late solving problems, preparing for exams. Meanwhile, he was stuck in a cycle of shortcuts and self-sabotage, never working, always cheating, chasing the next hit of instant gratification. Over time, his true intention began to show. He didn't just want to make my life uncomfortable. He wanted to break me. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, he wanted to watch me fall apart. And tragically, it started to work. When I signed that lease, I thought I was securing housing. I didn't know I was signing up for a year of psychological trauma. What followed was a downward spiral I couldn't stop. The constant tension, the relentless fighting, the gaslighting. It all triggered a wave of health anxiety like I'd never experienced before. There came a point where my body was screaming, manifesting all these psychosomatic symptoms: pain, exhaustion, constant fear. And yet, I couldn't connect the dots. My mind was being manipulated into believing I was just too sensitive, too dramatic, too weak. He would lecture me for hours, literally hours, about how I was a failure, how I didn't know how to hold on to relationships, how I was obsessed with meaningless details, how I was just too much. All of it, dressed up as constructive feedback, but designed to crush what little was left of my self-worth. And here's the part that still makes me ache. I believed it. Because I had already grown up in an environment that trained me to ignore my instincts, that taught me gaslighting was normal. His words didn't fall on new ears. They fell on conditioned ones. Eventually, the pressure broke something in me. I remember that time so clearly. It was the most critical semester of my college life. I had 12 grueling engineering subjects, all math, all calculations. It demanded full presence, and I had none left. That's what he wanted. He wanted me to crack. He wanted me to say, I can't do this anymore. And I did. I started bouncing between hospitals, desperate for answers. My body was in distress, and no one could explain why. Some doctors gave me antibiotics. Others said it was all psychological. One even put me on antidepressants that only made things worse. I was spiraling, and no one could stop it. Not even me. Eventually, I broke. I packed my things and said, that's it. I'm going home. I couldn't breathe in that space anymore. I couldn't function. I had to walk away, even though it meant dropping the semester and taking on 12 academic backlogs. That was the cost of surviving under the same roof as a narcissist who wanted to destroy me from the inside out. But what choice did I really have? At the same time I was drowning in my own trauma, I was also haunted by the fear of my father's reaction. What would he say? What would he do? After all, he was the one paying for my education, and academics meant everything to him. In his world, performance was a reflection of character, and failure wasn't an option. So walking away from everything I had worked for felt like both rebellion and surrender. But I did it anyway. I left, with nothing but exhaustion, zero clarity, and not a drop of hope that I'd return that year. I thought I had thrown it all away. But sometimes, the universe is a way of showing you grace where you expect punishment. Within just a couple of weeks, something miraculous happened. My health began to return. My body, which had been screaming under the weight of anxiety and trauma, began to stabilize. That was when I felt a quiet whisper inside. What if I tried again? So I did. I returned. No guarantee that I'd even be allowed to sit for exams. My attendance had plummeted, and I'd missed countless classes. But somehow, the doors that should have stayed shut creaked open. The faculty gave me one more chance. I studied like my life depended on it, because in some ways, it did. I cut out all distractions, even as he kept trying to break me. He didn't stop. He thought I'd stay shattered. He expected me to stay down. So when I came back stronger, it caught him completely off guard. He wasn't prepared for the version of me that refused to break anymore. And here's where it gets surreal. Almost overnight, his body began to crumble. The very symptoms that once tortured me, shaking limbs, twitching muscles, sudden health issues with no logical explanation, started haunting him. This man, who was once full of venom and vitality, was now trembling, unable to stand still. Within weeks, he was in the hospital. No clear diagnosis, just mystery and deterioration. The same doctors who had seen him as perfectly healthy before were now advising him to leave college, to go home for long-term care. They suspected nerve damage, but couldn't confirm anything. Think about that. Right before final exams, the same moment he wanted me broken and out, he had to leave. And I stayed. He ended up with 12 backlogs, exactly what I would have had if I hadn't fought my way back. And that was on top of the ones he already had. His entire academic timeline fell apart. Meanwhile, I cleared all my subjects with distinction. Somehow, I not only passed, I excelled. If that's not karma, I don't know what is. There was no medical reason for what happened to him. He had no prior issues. His collapse came out of nowhere. And in my heart, I know it wasn't random. That man had drained me, tortured me emotionally and mentally, and the universe answered. You don't get to wage psychological war on someone and walk away clean forever. There are spiritual laws in place that human logic can't explain. But of course, narcissists will never take responsibility for their downfall. Instead of self-reflection, he ran straight to delusion. He told one of his flying monkeys, ironically, someone who would be my childhood friend, that I had done black magic on him, that I must have cast some kind of spell. Because when a narcissist loses control and can't find a scapegoat, they jump to the supernatural. They can cheat, lie, destroy. But when consequences knock, they cry victim and point fingers at curses and voodoo. I'm not saying these forces don't exist, but I am saying narcissists use them as projection. They accuse others of exactly what they are doing in secret. But his little smear campaign didn't work. The damage was already done. His delay became permanent. He lost 2 full years of his academic life. And anyone who studied engineering knows that's no small thing. You don't just stretch a 4-year degree into 6 without serious consequences. He wanted me to be the one who failed. And instead, he inherited the very collapse he tried to orchestrate for me. That one reckless move, it shattered everything. It wasn't just a small mistake. It was a turning point that flipped his entire life upside down. He never completed his master's degree, couldn't hold down a job. And when he finally managed to land one, ironically, at the very university where he had once studied, he didn't last. He was kicked out. The reasons, let's just say they're too messy to unpack here. But here's the thing you really need to understand. What a narcissist does to others always finds its way back to them. You may not see it immediately. It might take time, but the energy they throw into the world, the manipulation, the sabotage, the cruelty, it doesn't disappear. It circles back. Always. That's not just karma. That's counter-manifestation. The destruction they plan for others ends up manifesting in their life instead. Why? Because energy doesn't just vanish. It looks for a home, and eventually, it returns to its source. So if you're in the darkness right now, if you feel like nothing makes sense and justice is far away, I want to tell you something. Hang on. There is a divine force at work, whether or not you see it right now. The light you're searching for, it is there, and you will reach it. Justice doesn't always come with loud announcements. Sometimes, it shows up quietly, but it always arrives. I'd love to know what you took away from my story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone. And with that, let's wrap this episode. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart, for watching and for holding space for this truth.